Hi, good morning. Edgardo Sambu here once more. And this time we are now on episode number 45. And the topic for today would be about the word idolatry. Many viewers would criticize me in this topic. But what can I do? I just have to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. And I know that the truth would somehow affect so many people. Anyway, here it goes. First of all, what is idolatry? This word idolatry came from the word idol or idols, which is being defined by the dictionary as a greatly loved or admired person or a picture or object that is worshipped as a god. For a full definition of the word idol, it is being defined as a representation or symbol of an object of worship, broadly a false god. It is also defined as an object of extreme devotion. The person or persons who gave these objects their extreme devotion are called idolaters, and the practice of giving these objects their extreme devotion is called idolatry. These definitions are definitions based on human standards. Now, let us try to check if the Bible has a definition of the word idolatry. The Bible states that the word idol is anything that is worshipped instead of the true God. In Bible times, idols were often statues of false gods made of wood, stone, or metal. Idolatry is the worship of idols. This definition of the dictionary and the definition of the Bible of the word idolatry is almost synonymous. Let us discuss this word idolatry this time in biblical terms. In the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 5, verses 7 up to 10, it states, "You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself an idol in the form of anything in heaven above, or on the earth beneath, or in the waters below. You shall not bow down to them or worship them. For I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing the children for the sin of the fathers to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing love to 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commandments." The meaning that is being conveyed by these verses is very clear. We are not supposed to make for ourselves idols in the form of anything, and we are forbidden to bow down to them or kneel before them or worship them, because if we do this, God will not like it. Proponents of the practice of idolatry will always say that they do not worship the idols that they have made. Proponents of idolatry kneel before these idols and pray to them and even bow down and worship them, and they will always say that these idols are just a reminder for them of the image of the true God or a person that is supposed to be worshipped. They will say that they are kneeling before the idols, but deep in their minds, they don't worship the idols, but they worship the person or the God that the idols represent. They will even go to the extent of explaining that if you have a picture of your loved ones, you place that picture in your wallet to remind you of who that picture represents, whether that picture represents your boyfriend, girlfriend, mother, or father, or anybody else. There is nothing wrong in putting such pictures in your wallet. There's no spiritual law against that. But the question is, do you put that picture on your altar where you pray and kneel to that picture? Of course not. You only put it in your wallet, which is different when you make an idol and put that idol in your altar and pray. Bow down, kneel, and worship that idol. Did you get the logic? No matter what our excuses in kneeling before an idol, we are still disobeying God's commandments because we have made an idol and kneeled before it. Excuse me. To expound on this topic, allow me to give an example. Supposing I found a piece of wood on the street and decided to carve this piece of wood into an idol. After doing this, I decided to sell this to you, and after you had bought it from me, will you place this idol in your altar and bow down, kneel, and worship it, even knowing that I was the one who carved it and sold it to you? If I were you, I won't do such a thing. There are many carvers of these sorts of idols in many cities, using different materials such as wood, cement, metal, plastic, etc., 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 as their medium. Are you going to buy these from them and worship what they had carved? These idols are just made by human hands. Worship the Creator of all things, which is God, not the creations of human hands. In biblical explanations, what is the meaning when you kneel, bow down, or worship somebody or something? Let us read the next verse to get the meaning of these actions. In the book of Psalms, chapter 95, verse 6, it states, "Come, let us bow down in worship. Let us kneel before the Lord our Maker." When we worship our God, we bow down in worship and kneel before our Maker in spirit and in truth, not in front of God's idol or picture. So when you kneel and bow down before an idol, it is tantamount to saying that you are worshiping that idol, not what it represents, isn't it? In the book of John, chapter 4, verse 24, it states, God is spirit, and his worshippers must worship in spirit and in truth. This verse is as clear as a bell. You are not supposed to worship God in the form of idols or pictures, because you have to worship God in spirit and in truth. In the book of Acts, chapter 17, verse 29, it states, Therefore, since we are God's offspring, we should not think that the divine being is like gold or silver or stone, an image made by man's design and skill. In this verse, we are being commanded that the mere thought of the divine being is an idol made of gold or silver or stone or whatever materials that had been used is totally forbidden by God. How much more when we go to the extent of making an actual idol made of gold, silver, or stone, and then kneeling before it and praying to it. In the book of Romans, chapter 1, verses 22 to 23, it states, Although they claimed to be wise, they became fools and exchanged the glory of the immortal God for images made to look like mortal man and birds and animals and reptiles. Being wise in human terms is not too important to God, especially when you become like fools, when you misunderstood the commandments of God. These wise men are like fools when they exchange the glory of God to idols. Instead of worshiping God, these people had worshipped the idols that they had made. In the book of Romans, chapter 1, verse 25, it states, They exchanged the truth of God for a lie, and worship and serve created things rather than the Creator, who is forever praised. Amen. Just take notice of the foolishness of men. There was this great Creator who had created everything, and this Creator is the one who is supposed to be worshipped. But what did men do? Instead of worshiping this Creator, they made for themselves idols made of stone, wood, silver, and gold, and worshiped these idols, not the Creator. Such foolishness! They worship created things, not the Creator. This topic is quite lengthy. It's quite long. So I am going to divide this topic in 3 parts. This is the first part. Please, you have to view the second part and the third part of this topic, idolatry, to fully understand what I am talking about. Let me expound on this topic, idolatry. Idolatry is what we call worshiping idols. But God the Father had forbidden His people, and His people are us, people from the olden times and people from our times. And He said, "You shall not make or carve anything that would represent a man, an animal, or anything on the earth or under the earth or under the sea. And thou shalt not bow down before them, thou shalt not worship them, thou shalt not pray to them," said God the Father. Because when you do this, you are committing the sin of idolatry. It is not a sin to carve something that represents a person or animal. It is not a sin. But the problem is, if you place this idol that you had carved on your altar, and if you had kneeled down before this idol that you had carved, and you had prayed and worshiped before this idol that you had carved, then that is the point in which you had committed the sin of idolatry. Because worship is only being reserved to our only God, not to anything that represents our God. But the problem is people started to carve using mediums such as wood, cement, plastic, and anything that they could use as a medium. And after carving this, they placed these idols on their altars and started to pray to them. Let me remind you that our God, God the Father, is a jealous God. Worship is only for our God the Father. If you worship something else and not God the Father, if you worship those idols that you have made, remember that our God is a jealous God. God will punish you for this. Not only you, but God will visit your relatives from the first to the third generation of your race, and they will be punished just like an idolater. So my fellow Bible-believing Christians, I know many viewers will criticize me for this, that I am trying to attack other churches who are practicing this kind of idolatry. There are so many churches all over the world who are practicing this form of idolatry. They make for themselves idols of every medium: wood, cement, plastic, gold, metal. And with their expertise and with their skills, they were able to carve an idol that represents a certain person, that represents a certain animal, whether animal that inhabits the land or the sea or the air. And after carving these idols, they started to pray and worship and bow down to it. We only bow down to a creator. We don't bow down to the creations made by human hands. But the problem with people, they started to replace the creator with idols that they themselves had made. They stopped worshiping the creator and they started worshiping the creations of the creator. That is a very big mistake for Christians. And there are so many Christians all over the world that are explaining and claiming that they are Christians. But in fact, they are not Christians. Why? Because they are kneeling before idols and they're committing the sin of idolatry. My fellow Bible-believing Christians, I'm going to cut this on this part, which I call part 1. Because if I continue on going through with the other Bible verses, it would be too long for you to understand. But I suggest that please, you have to view part 2 and part 3 of this episode 45, explaining what is idolatry. And please don't get mad at me because I had explained this topic, which is a very delicate topic, in the minds of Bible-believing Christians. So in the meantime, to my fellow Bible-believing Christians, I would say bye-bye. And don't forget that 2 or 3 weeks from now, I am going to post the video on part 2 of this topic. And if you would like to view the videos episode 1 up to episode number 45, just go to YouTube. On the word search, just type my name, Edgardo Sambo, and YouTube will provide you all these episodes for you to view. So, may God bless us all. Until part 2 of this video, let us see each other one more time. Bye-bye. Thank you.